And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down and reviewing The Flash Season 7, Episode 1, otherwise entitled All's That Wells Ends Well. And if you have not seen this episode, make sure you do so before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So it has been a long wait, but we have finally arrived with the season premiere for The Flash Season 7. The Flash is finally back on our screens, and oh boy, it is so great to have it back. I mean, I really mean that. Like, watching this first episode of Season 7, it genuinely filled me with so much joy. And, you know, while I have a lot of thoughts on this episode, and, you know, while it was also in a lot of ways a very sad experience to watch this episode, oh my god, just to have the Flash back on our screens again, it was just beautiful, honestly. I was so happy watching this episode, and again, filled me with so much joy that, you know, pretty much one of my all-time favourite shows is returning, or has returned. It was just so good to watch it again, and wow, they came back with an incredibly strong season premiere. And it's kind of insane to say that this is an incredible season premiere, given the fact that this episode wasn't intended to be the season premiere. Of course, as we know, The Flash was unfortunately cut short last season, with Season 6 ending on Episode 19. This was supposed to be Episode 20 of Season 6, but obviously the final 3 episodes of Season 6 are now the first 3 episodes of Season 7. So when we get to Episode 4, that's pretty much supposed to be the start of the Season 7 story arc. So we're still technically in that Season 6 story right now, but I cannot believe how well this worked as a season premiere. Like I say, as we were all incredibly surprised how well the last episode worked as a great season finale for Season 6, this episode worked as an incredible series premiere, or season premiere, for Season 7. I was incredibly impressed, so let's dive into my thoughts. So our main storyline in this episode is that Barry needs to get the Artificial Speed Force, or the ASF, back up and running. Obviously, he is now down to 1% on his speed. He basically has what is described as a matter of days, or maybe even a matter of hours worth of speed left. So if he doesn't get this Artificial Speed Force back up and running, then no more Flash. And we're kind of in a race against time here, because we have this big plan unfolding with Top, who returns in this episode, who we haven't seen since Season 3. And then also on top of that, we also have another situation with Barry Allen, where he needs that Speed Force energy back in his body in order to survive. Now, this Artificial Speed Force thing has been going on a little bit in Season 6, obviously ever since they introduced this story of Barry losing his speed, sort of in the back half of Season 6. And this was a brilliant way to really create this Artificial Speed Force, because we finally have it now in this episode. We have Nash Wells in this episode, of course, played by Tom Cavanagh, and he still has all the other Welleses inside of him, which is obviously a result of Crisis. And we get to see all of the Welleses return in this episode. We get to see Harry from Earth 2, we get to see HR from Earth 19, we also get to see Sherlock Wells, even though I don't believe we ever found out what Earth he was from, but we get to see him. We also get to see, incredibly, this new Wells. We got to see this brand new Wells, who was Harrison Orson Welles, who was like this actor Wells, theatre actor Wells. So a completely new Wells, I believe, that we've never seen before. I believe we've never seen him before, but he came in, which was incredible. And what I loved about that is that obviously the interactions between all the different Welleses are all incredibly entertaining and incredibly funny. And we got to see that on full force here in this episode, especially interacting with Nash, who just pretty much wants nothing to do with them. It was really fun, and it's really great, you know, because it's been a little while since we've seen the Council of Wells, so it was really nice to see Tom Cavanagh really get to, you know, spruce up his acting chops and, you know, show how great he is as an actor to kind of play all the different versions of Wells inside of one episode. But what happens here is they kind of discover that in order to power the Artificial Speed Force device, what they need to do is take all of the multiverse particles that are now inside of Nash Wells from the result of Crisis and inseminate them into the Artificial Speed Force sphere as a fuel to power the Artificial Speed Force device. And in doing so, that means all of the Welleses will then be put inside of this device, all the multiverse particles will be put inside of it, and therefore they will all die, including Nash Wells, who of course is kind of the host body, if you will, for all the Welleses. And this was a really interesting plot, because you can see how much this scares Nash. Like, you can see he just doesn't want to die, and we know that Nash is quite a cowardly character. Like, we saw that in Crisis, you know, with him becoming Pariah. We knew he was quite a cowardly character to begin with, so this was very much in line with his character, and he ultimately ends up lying to the team in order to save his own life, basically, and says that there has to be another way that they can use Allegra's UV powers to basically take the multiverse particles out of him and directly into the artificial Speed Force sphere. And they go ahead and they do that, and this ultimately ends up with Barry getting hit with all these multiverse particles, and this created one of the best scenes I never imagined would ever have happened on The Flash. I never thought we would ever see this, and this is something I never thought of, but it was comedy gold, and it was seeing Grant Gustin ending up playing all the different versions of Wells. This was amazing. I was laughing out loud at this. I thought this was so funny. Watching Grant go around playing the different versions of Wells, like we see him first wake up as Sherlock Wells, and just seeing Grant do the French accent was really funny, and also him really playing up on that joke from season 5 where everyone pronounces Sherlock wrong. That was really great, like really hit the nail on the head with that one. And we get to see him play HR, and then we also see him play Wells the Grey as well. We get to see him play that in this, which we've not seen Tom play in a while, so that was really fun. And then we also get to see him play Harry as well, which was just absolutely incredible. Like seeing, we got a bit of a tease of that from the promo photos. We saw the picture of Grant with the glasses and stuff, Harry's glasses. And seeing him play Harry, like, it was really great to see Grant do that because he was really good at it. Like, he really got to, again, spread out his acting chops and just really play these different versions of himself and these different versions of... Because it's interesting, he's basically playing Tom Cavanaugh, and that was really cool. But just through kind of like the voice of Barry Allen, and that was really interesting, and again really funny and just really great to watch. And I think I never would have expected this in this episode, but it just completely took me by surprise, took me completely off guard, and it was comedy gold. But one thing I also want to add into this final main story section is Chester and Allegra are both big parts of this episode, because we don't really have much Iris in this episode, we don't have much Joe in this episode. And Caitlin and Cisco are not in this episode at all. And obviously we don't have Ralph in this episode either, as we all know. We all know why that is. But Chester and Allegra, I think they were put in this episode in full force because obviously we know now that Chester and Allegra and the actors and actresses that plays them are actually series regulars now. And I think what this episode really was trying to do was really establish these characters as really main ones and important members of the team. Because obviously now with Ralph gone and potentially with Sue gone, I'm not too sure. I'm going to get to that in a bit later. It seems like there's some character spots on the team, and I think that is where Chester and Allegra are going to come in. And I think they really played off well in this episode. Like obviously Allegra and Chester, they've been around all throughout season 6, but not in a regular position. But seeing them as actual full members of the team, I thought they did a great job, handled everything great, and again, I was really impressed with all of it. And I think they really fit in well, and I really like their characters. Now, we do have a little storyline with Iris in this episode who's still stuck in the Mirrorverse, and this was kind of an interesting parallel because we had all the stuff with, Harry and Tom Cavanaugh playing all the different versions of Wells, and we had Grant playing all the different versions of Wells, and then in this storyline, we get to see Iris play previous versions of herself. She's kind of caught in this dimension, she's still in the Mirrorverse, and she's seeing these reflections of her past self, and we get to see a version of her from season 1, we get to see the version of her from season 3 that gets killed by Savitar, and we also get to see like the old Iris from season 5, like from the flash forwards from Nora's future in season 5. And this was great because again, as I said about Tom stretching his wings, Grant stretching his wings, it allows Candice Patton to do the same thing as well. She did some great acting in this, and again, it was cool to see the other versions of Iris, like the past versions of Iris, kind of what they think of Iris now, and how they have changed their opinions on Iris and things like that. It was interesting to see that, and again, Candice Patton did a great job with the acting, and, Candice Patton's a fantastic actress on the show too, and just seeing her play these different versions of herself, it was not only nostalgic, but it was also really cool to see too. And we also had Cecile and Top in this episode, which, like I say, Top actually returns in this episode, who we haven't seen since season 3, and she's kind of caught up in this setup where we actually see Mirror Master, like Sam Scudder, the original Mirror Master, who again was in season 3. We actually see him killed in this episode. He actually dies, which I did not expect. Eva McCulloch actually just kills him. And turns out, apparently he was actually a reflection from the Mirrorverse, like he was a mirror duplicate that Eva created. So it turns out that Eva McCulloch is actually really the original Mirror Master, and the Sam Scudder version was just a new version of the Mirror Master rather than the other way around like we originally thought. So that was an interesting twist, I certainly didn't see that coming. And we have this storyline where Cecile's trying to get Top to kind of confess to everything, and she ends up revealing this dastardly plan that she was actually behind all of Sam Scutter's original crimes and things like that. Like, she was the brains of the operation, and she ends up having this flight with a bomb on it that's going to go over Central City, and this is like the ticking time bomb that we have for Barry to actually get the artificial Speed Force and get his life force back. So again, cool stuff. It was nice to have Cecile, like, again, actually get some more stuff to do, because I do feel like Cecile can be a little bit wasted at times, so it was nice to see her actually have a cool storyline here. And again, bringing Top back from Season 3, pretty cool in my opinion. I like when we get to see the Road come back and you know, cause a ruckus, so that was really cool to see. Now, of course, I cannot leave this episode without talking about the sacrifice of Nash Wells. This is not what I expected to come out of this episode. Like, I did not expect Nash and all the other versions of Wells to die in this episode. I was not expecting Tom Cavanaugh and all of his characters to die in this episode. I mean, technically it's not all of his characters, because obviously we still have Reverse Flash and he'll still play Reverse Flash, but I did not expect this. I did not expect Nash to die here. But ultimately he does. He ends up holding onto the Speed Force sphere so he can sacrifice himself and have all the multiverse particles go inside of it, and he dies. Now, I will say, I think this is the perfect arc for Nash Wells. Like, I think for any Wells to sacrifice themselves, I think Nash, it fits the best. Again, considering what he's been through, he's a very cowardly character, given he is the one who's responsible for Crisis, really, and the fact that he was forced to become Pariah and, you know, become a Pariah to... You know, obviously he was the character of Pariah, but he also had to become a Pariah of the Crisis. I think it made so much sense for him to be the one to sacrifice himself for the Flash. I thought that made a lot of sense. But what really hit it home was such an emotional goodbye. You know, seeing Barry in front of Nash, you know, pleading with him not to do this, and then we see all the other Welleses sort of take over his body at different times to say goodbye to Barry. It was so emotional. It was so emotional, especially with Harry. Like, seeing Harry there. You know, it was really sad to see, like, you know, HR, like, calling him BA and stuff like that. You know, HR, it was great to see HR in this episode again. But particularly with Harry, like, you know, Harry is such an important part of the show. And because even though he's not technically, like, the OG original Wells, he kind of feels like he is. You know, because he was in Season 2 and he's in Season 4, so he kind of has the longest lifespan out of any of the Welleses, outside of, I guess, Reverse Flash. So it was super emotional to say goodbye to Harry. Like, that was the one that really killed me, was Harry. Because they have such a bond, you know, and it really got to me. And again, I didn't expect Tom Cavanaugh to say goodbye in this episode. I didn't expect us to lose him. I didn't expect to lose Nash or any of the Welleses. So it was super emotional. And I'm really sad that we're never going to see any of the Welleses again. Like I said, the closest we'll get, I think, in the future is we'll see Tom Cavanaugh playing the Reverse Flash. But beyond that, this is the end of the Welleses. And I guess this is where the episode title comes from. And I never expected that. And it really caught me by surprise. I say that a lot in this episode, but it really caught me by surprise. And I didn't expect it to be so emotional. I was truly tearing up and welling up watching the scene. I think Grant did an incredible job with the acting. Tom did an incredible job, especially, you know, switching to the different performances on the fly is a real talent, and he does a great job with it. And again, just particularly saying goodbye to Harry, that really killed me because it was super sad. The only thing that kind of niggles at me for this death scene is that obviously Caitlin's not in this episode, and neither is Cisco. So we don't get to see, particularly like Cisco, say goodbye to Harry. Like, because even Barry makes a comment like saying, you know, like Harry was a father to him. It's a shame we don't get that. I mean, I hope in the next episode, we know Cisco and Caitlin are back in the next episode, so I hope that we get to see them react to it. But yeah, other than that, I thought it was just a perfect goodbye for this character, like a perfect goodbye and a perfect ending and send off for all these different characters. But I'm going to get back to Tom Cavanaugh in just a second. So the ending scene, obviously we have like a post-credit scene as the Flash normally does, and we get to see that Eva actually discovers she's the mirror duplicate. So this is interesting. I think this is obviously going to lead us into the wrap-up for Eva's arc. So Eva basically discovers that she does actually die, and she's a mirror duplicate. So I guess that answers the question, like, where did she come from initially, and who was in the Mirrorverse to bring her in and then send her back out? Because the video clip that she plays of herself basically shows her very quickly going into the mirror and back out again, pretty much instantly. So who was in the Mirrorverse originally to kind of pull her in and back out again? Obviously this is something we'll wait and see, but definitely an interesting twist, and again, this I think will lead up to sort of the finale of this arc. Now, before I wrap this review up, I would like to talk about Tom Cavanagh again, just because I want to bring up a theory I have, and I don't know if this theory has gone anywhere. Like, I don't know if anybody else has mentioned this, so if they have, I apologise for me thinking this is original, but I don't think Tom Cavanagh is gone from this show for good. I think Tom Cavanagh, like I say, he'll still be around to play Reverse Flash. Like, he'll always play Reverse Flash, you know, especially because they can very rarely get Matt Letcher to play Reverse Flash, so as long as Tom Cavanagh is there, like, they can use Reverse Flash. But I think Tom Cavanagh is still going to remain a series regular on this show. And that comes from the fact that the showrunner, Eric Wallace, has said that Tom Cavanagh's not gone. He has said that Tom Cavanagh is not gone from this show. Now, I think he's going to be gone for the next few episodes, but what I think is going to happen here is I think that Tom Cavanagh, from now on, is going to be playing Ralph Dibny. And the reason I think this is because obviously we know that Ralph, like, Hartley Sawyer is gone. He is not on the show anymore because he got fired, obviously, for everything that went down. So we were kind of wondering, what are they going to do with Ralph going forward? Because he is quite an important character to the show. He's been on the show for a while now. And he is kind of in the middle of a big storyline, particularly with Sue Dearborn, played by Julia Dreyfus. So what are they going to do with Ralph? So I think Tom Cavanagh is going to be playing Ralph. I think he no longer has to play any of the Welleses, apart from, you know, Wellesabard. He no longer has to play any of them, so he kind of has a whole new role to play. He can kind of do whatever he wants. And if he's going to remain on The Flash, he could totally play Ralph Dibny. And I think this makes sense too, because if you remember, I made some videos a while back talking about, you know, what are they going to do with Ralph. And I said that, you know, because of his powers, they could totally just get another actor to play him. Like, they could totally just get another actor to play him. He can shapeshift his face and be that new character. Be played by a new actor. Like, it's totally within the character's power set to do that. So why not make him Tom Cavanagh? Especially because I have a theory as well that I think that obviously we know Sue Dearborn has been framed for the murder of Joseph Carver, so she's kind of on the run and in hiding. And in this episode it's stated by Cecile that Ralph is in hiding with her currently. So that's kind of how they wrote around Ralph not being in this episode straight away. So given that, it seems very, very likely that if Sue Dearborn's face is all over the papers because she killed Joseph Carver, which obviously that is what happens, we see her face in a newspaper in this episode, it seems very likely that Ralph Dibny would also be caught up in that and his face would then be squandered. So why not write around that and say, oh, well, we can't use that face for Ralph Dibny anymore because he's basically a known felon. Why not use a new face, i.e. Tom Cavanagh, who now is incredibly free on the show because he doesn't have a character to play currently. So that's my theory. Again, I could be completely wrong, and again, I'm sorry if this has been brought up elsewhere. I've not personally seen it, but this is something I literally came up with today when I was just thinking about the show. I think Tom Cavanagh is going to play Ralph. I think Tom Cavanagh is going to be the new elongated man. And I think this will be a fun new role for him to play. So, what do you guys think about this theory? Make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd be interested to hear if you think of this. And if you have your own theories about how they're going to do, you know, what they're going to do with Ralph and what they're going to do with Tom, let me know down below. But in my opinion, my personal theory for The Flash Season 7 and for The Flash going forward is that Tom Cavanagh will be playing Ralph Dibny, the elongated man. But anyway, there you have it, guys. There's my review for The Flash Season 7, Episode 1. Definitely didn't expect this review to be as long as it was, but again, this episode really filled me with joy, and I had a lot of really awesome things to say about it, because again, I was super excited about it. But I hope you guys did enjoy this review. If you want to see more Flash reviews and more Arrowverse reviews in general, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And with all that said, I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10. Honestly, I don't have a single complaint with this episode. I absolutely loved it. I mean, I know I said I wish that Caitlin and Cisco would have been around for Nash's death, but unfortunately, you know, due to COVID and stuff like that and the things they had already written in the season, they couldn't really get around that. Because Caitlin obviously was already gone and Cisco's been gone for a little while, so they couldn't really get around that, so I'm not going to hold that against the episode. For me, other than that, I don't have a single complaint with this episode. I thought it was perfect, and a perfect season premiere, perfect return to form for the show. Well, not a return to form, but you know what I mean, just a perfect return. I absolutely loved it, so yeah, this episode's a 10 out of 10 for me. But anyway, with all that said, I hope you guys did enjoy this video, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and hope to see you guys again in my next video.